What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Cole and I run this channel with my wife Jay. And for this year, for 2021, we decided we wanted to bring more helpful, more useful fishing content to this platform to potentially help elevate your fishing game. And we figured that a great way to start off this how-to series would be to show y'all the proper way to spool up a spinning reel with braided line. Now, for those of you that have watched our channel for a while, or you've watched some of our videos, you see that we use spinning tackle a lot, and we pretty much use braided line on our spinning reels exclusively. And there's a reason for that. There is a ton of advantages to using braided line. Number one is that braided line is super sensitive. This is the most sensitive fishing line you can put on a reel, whether it be a spinning reel or a bait caster. Another reason we like to use braided line is because it is very strong. It also has zero stretch as opposed to monofilament fluorocarbon. Whenever you get a bite and you're using braided line and you lean back into that fish, you know that hook is getting driven into that fish's mouth because there's not going to be any play in the line, which is really, really important. Another thing that we like about braided line is how great it is to cast and how smooth it is. And that in part is because of the small line diameter. So for instance, this is 10-pound braid and we use 10 to 15-pound braid in all of our setups. This has an average line diameter of 0.05 inches, which in comparison to this line here, this is some 6-pound mono. This has an average diameter of 0.09, which may not seem like a big difference, but if you were to spool 10-pound monofilament on your 2500 size bait cat or 2500 size spinning reel, you're not gonna be able to make that long of a cast, as opposed to if you put this on, this has like, you know, that 0.05 inches, which is pretty much the same as like 2-pound test monofilament. You can sling a bait super far, which is very important to us. We'd like to make as long of a cast as possible. I feel like that's a great advantage to have. And then when you have that no stretch coupled with it, you can, you know, set the hook from a long ways away and drive that hook into the fish. So this box of line that I'm holding up is Berkley X9, and it is one of our favorites to use, and the reason for that is because of how far we can cast it and how smooth it is. So it's the X9, which means it's a 9-carrier braid, which means that it has 9 strands of braid woven together, and it makes the line very round. So the more strands that your braid has, the rounder it is and the smoother it is. So it's a great line to put on your spinning reels because you want to make those long casts. You want it to be smooth coming through the guides, coming through the spool, and it's a really great option if you don't know where to start. Definitely would recommend the X9. It also comes in 3, maybe 4 colors. I think it comes in 4 colors, so you can choose from different colors depending on your current situation. And so the last point that I want to make about an advantage to using braided line is that while it can be a little bit expensive, it lasts forever on your reels. We have some reels that have had braided line on them for upwards of 2 years without changing it out. You know, it just depends on how well you take care of it, but just know that when you buy braided line that you're making an investment that's going to last for a long time on your reels, whether it be on a bait caster or a spinning reel. You just got to take care of it, try not to bird's nest it up and cut it out. And it will last for a long time. And that has a lot to do with one of the disadvantages to using braided line, and that is that you're going to have to add a leader in most senses. So you're going to tie the braided line onto your spool, and then you're going to connect a leader so that it is clear and transparent so the fish can't detect it. If you can get away with using straight braid, go for it, but most situations you can't. You're going to want to learn how to tie a leader knot. And replacing leader knots can get annoying at times, but once you get the knot down, it takes like less than a minute to tie it, and it'll last for as long as you don't have to cut that line off, I guess. So anyways, those are the advantages to using braided line, as well as, I guess, a little bit of a disadvantage to using it. Now let's jump into how you can properly spool it onto your reel. So this is a 2500 size reel. This is the Shimano Stratic. And it is by far, you know, one of my favorite reels to use. I love all the Stratics, you know, from all the different generations, and it's just a workhorse for me. I definitely recommend it. It's, you know, upper end spinning reel. But if I had to pick just one spinning reel, if you wanted just one to get the job done, 2500 size Stratic, you can't go wrong. And I have it paired up with this brand new, nice 6 cents unicorn spinning rod. This is definitely an upper end rod. You definitely don't have to shell out the cash to get a rod like this, but again, if you're wanting something that's premium, that's really nice, really sensitive, this is a great rod that I'm excited to use. Anyways, let's jump into the spooling process. All right, so to begin the spooling process, we're gonna start by attaching some backing. This is just some trilene big game 8-pound mono. And there's a couple of different reasons why you should apply a backing whenever you're gonna attach braided line to your spinning reel. The first reason is that if you just tie the braided line directly to the spool, you have to tie it on there really tight, and even if you tie it on there really tight, it's likely to slip. So you'll spool your line on there, and then the knot in the base of the spool is gonna be slipping, and it's gonna jack your stuff up pretty bad. Some people like to use electrical tape or something like that just to, you know, start by taping the line onto the spool, but I'm not really one of those guys that likes to do that. I would just rather tie on a backing and then tie the braid onto the backing. And another reason why I want to apply a backing onto this reel is because this box line only has 164 yards of line, which I could spool all this line in this box onto this reel, no problem. But I have other reels that I want to spool with braided line, so what I can do is I can spool, you know, maybe, I don't know, 30, 40 yards of this onto the reel, and then I can apply this so that I have some left over to use on other reels. That's just a way to extend your dollar and get the most out of your spool and braided line. So let's start by putting this on. I'll show you guys the knot I use real quick. All right, let's start by attaching our backing. We're gonna tie a knot that I really don't know the name of. It's basically like a triple square knot. You're just gonna wrap the main line around 3 times the spool. 3 is very important. Cinch it down onto the spool, and then you're gonna come back and you're gonna do it one more time. You're gonna go 1, 2, 3, and I really don't think knot is that important. I think you just gotta make sure you have something that's cinched down tight. So whatever knot you can tie to the spool, I'm good with it. This is just the one I've used forever. And it just cinches down really good, gets really tight, and we'll cut the tag end off. You wanna make sure that there is no tag end on there. All right, let's get some of this backing spooled up on here. You don't want to do too much, but just enough so that you can have a nice spool full of braided line. Okay, so now that we have the backing onto our spinning reel, let's show you guys how we're going to attach our braided line onto the backing. We're going to be using a knot called the Alberto Knot, and that is the same knot you're going to use to attach your fluorocarbon or monofilament leader onto the braid later on. It's a pretty easy knot. I have this little blue pillowcase sheet here so you can hopefully see the knot tying process, but we're going to start by taking our backing and we're going to make a loop. So anytime you're tying this knot, you want to use the monofilament or the fluorocarbon, you want to make the loop with that line. Never do it with the braided line. And you'll see, I guess, why it won't work. So anyways, we're going to run our braided line through the loop, just like this, and you're going to wrap it down the line 7 times. You can do probably anywhere between 5 and 7, but I just like 7. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so you're gonna kind of straighten that out. And you can see on the knot right there, we have these little series of hills and valleys. So you have the hill, the valley, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna run the braided line back up top to the loop, but you're gonna run the line like into these little valleys. So there should be about 6 of them. So we'll go 1, and the neater you do this, the better and stronger the knot is gonna be. So 1, 2, 3, 4, you see how it's going into those valleys? 5, 6, and 7. And then when you get to your 7th one or to your last little valley, you're going to run the line back through the loop and back out. So what you're left with is this little system here of hills and valleys. 2 lines are connected. We're going to wet it, and then we're just going to gently pull it together. And that right there is a super strong knot. I mean, I can pull really hard on it, really get those lines fused together. And that is rock solid. That's gonna be down in our spool. We want this knot to be rock solid. All right, that's great. There's the Alberto knot. Let's cut our tag ends, cut them off really close. You don't want any of the tag end to remain inside the spool. It'll just kind of jack up the flow of the reel. All right. And there you have it. There is a very strong connecting knot from our monofilament backing to our braided line. Okay, so all we have left to do is spool the braided line onto the reel. And anytime you're spooling a spinning reel, you want the line to be coming off the spool counterclockwise, because when you're reeling that's going on the line clockwise, if it goes on counterclockwise, it just kind of helps eliminate line twist. And in this case, with the spool label faced up, it is coming off counterclockwise. So let's spool this bad boy up. And I also like to run the line through this first guide right here, and then just like pinch it and keep it tight with my fingers right below that guide. It just lets it kind of just come through the guide. It keeps everything nice and neat and keeps it from getting all twisted up. So let's spool this on there real quick. And you also just want to make sure you don't overfill your spool. You want it to be full because you only get one chance to spool it up, but make sure you don't overfill your spool. And there you have it, guys. The reel is fully spooled up with some braid. The last thing that I like to do whenever I'm getting my reel spooled up for the first time with some braided line is I like to attach like a casting plug or like a 1/2 ounce bullet weight. I like to go out in the yard, out in the field, out in the lake, make some long casts with it, reel the line in a few times, get the line stretched out, get it really nice and evenly laid out on the spool. Might be a little bit overkill for some, but that's just a process that I've used that has really worked. And I've had a lot of success doing it. But anyways, that's gonna be it for today's episode on how to properly spool a spinning reel with braided line. We hope you found this information helpful and useful. We would love to hear your feedback down in the comments section. And while you're at it, go on ahead, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of our future fishing adventures. I'm Cole Harkin, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye, guys.